Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
So we bang on about healing the bodies. And we bang on about how healing the emotional body allows you to access the spiritual body where all of our healing and growth and evolution really can take place. So when you have issues with your physical body, it's your unhealed emotional body. Yeah. Which is why we say what you see is what you feel. And so those moments where you struggle with your appearance is because you're not feeling great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that? What do we do?
We keep tackling the emotional body from a place of compassion and also harmony. And also in the shame episode, I'm not really sure if we said it directly or not, but in many ways, the fix for that in terms of the physical body is confront it head on and flip it. So you know how we talked about like with shame requires us sometimes, like there's 3 ways of dealing with it. So one of the 3 ways in which we can deal with shame is confront it. So you flip it by rather than hiding from it, you pretty much challenge it by doing the opposite of what the shame is telling you to do.
So in this case, for example, where if, let's say, someone would think no one would be proud of to be with me because of my physical body, you would assume that they are?
No, it's I'm going to be proud of my physical body because I think no one else would be proud of it because I'm not proud of it. If I were proud of it, then I would know everybody else would be proud to be with me. Okay. Does that make sense?
And how do you do that, though?
You find ways in which to be proud of your body as it is, not as you wish it to be.
Oh, I've done that. Mm-hmm. But I really like my collarbone or I really like my ankle.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rather mental body approach and it's rather simplistic. But the more you confront it, the more pieces you'll find until you can piece it together. Now, this isn't the end-all solution, right? Because again, we say the emotional and spiritual need to be addressed. Otherwise, that's not going to hold. As you said, you've done it before, but it doesn't necessarily stick. But the more you do it and the more you're sort of doing that in conjunction with your emotional body healing, the easier it becomes to say, you know what? I'm good as I am, or I'm cool with how this is all, how it's been and what it's becoming.
Okay.
If I'm not feeling like the divine, then what is separate in me? And it doesn't necessarily have to be from that good enough space if you're past your karma and stuff. I mean, even I have those moments where I don't always feel good, but it's because I'm not internally separate, but I'm not living in integrity in that moment. I'm not taking care of myself. I've overcommitted. I'm running around. I'm not liking what I'm doing. I can always easily pinpoint if I'm not feeling quote unquote pretty or if I'm whatever, I'm doing something I don't really want to be doing. Our issues always begin and end with us and have nothing to do with the other person.
Oh my God, it's not just even beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
If we are the divine, then why can life look like shit sometimes, right? Why do we look like shit? Because life looks like shit.
Yeah.
And why do we go through shit? And so it kind of does lead us down the rabbit hole of what's the point of all of this? What's the point of the bullshit and the deathing and the killing and the fucking? But you can never really get to the full answer until you reach the divine. Because otherwise you're just kind of going through, spiral after spiral of answers and you're just constantly, reaching another level, as you can tell, another level. But at the end, the answer is always the divine. So faith is the bridge between us and the divine. When we can own that we are the divine, faith becomes a given. And that starts to underpin all the things in terms of the connections and the knowledge that we have and the loving relationships and all of existence. And that's what we mean by the all. And that is why the divine is the all. And you're like looking at me blank face.
No, I'm not at all. I'm actually like, yeah, I get this.
Yeah.
I should really get
which
this.
Is why
is really psychotic.
I'm always relieved when you say that. I'm like, hallelujah. And once we can grasp that, we can understand that faith is effectively the backbone of 5D.
Okay, so I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked that I get it.
I'm loving that you get it.
Basically that I was telling you yesterday. And I was like, just a random point that means nothing. But turns out it meant everything today.
Okay.
Remember I was telling you about one of my favorite songs. And I was saying, I believe she won't take me somewhere I'm not supposed to be. Is one of my favorite lines ever.
Yes, I actually remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That for me is what you mean. So whenever I meet someone, I just have this faith that there's a reason. Whenever I do anything, I just have this faith that there's a reason. And so it's weird because it's not something I've ever really had before. But I guess going through your karma, healing it piece by piece, you know, and we're talking a little bit about that in the last episode about actually trying things and seeing what happens and allowing your mind to expand as your heart does, right? As your heart kind of leads the way.
Yeah.
I started really learning that there's a reason.
Yeah.
And that started really underpinning my faith. And over time it grew and grew. So there is a point now, even in my darkest moments, where I'm looking in the mirror going like, who is this ball staring back at me? Where I'm like, there is a reason for this. Yeah. Have faith that I know. It's not even a have faith. I know that it will be resolved, usually much faster than I think it will be. Yeah. And I will be better for it and happier for it. And so if you look at it that way, then it means that everything I touch, there's a reason. Yeah. Everything I engage with, whether it's within myself or outside of myself, there's a reason. And so all is just as divine as I am.
Because you are part of the all.
Yeah. That bit, that's the jump maybe. But I get that faith bit. I actually really do. And it's just a given.
It is a given. You know, at a certain point, it becomes a given.
It does. And I know I sound crazy, you know, like, and actually when I get upset, it's because I'm doubting my faith. Yeah. So when everything I feel and everything I know doesn't look like what I can see through my eyes, and I kind of force myself to believe something that I know isn't real or goes against my faith, it hurts. And that's the pain that I now experience outside of healing old shit. Any new pain is just when it's not even not an integrity, is when I'm denying my own reality, which is effectively I'm denying my faith. And I'm not saying I'm a super spiritual person. I'm not. I'm irreverent, if anything. Like, I'm all a bit like, let's just go out, have sex, get drunk and party and have a good time. You know, life is for living and life is for fun. Yes. And I test my faith a lot as well. Like, I do it because I'm that person, right? I do.
Exhaustively.
Like, you know.
Yes. Okay.
But the more you do it, the more it just allows you to. I mean, when you say Eyes Without a Face is the title of this, or like who are you when you can't see yourself? It's, for me, it's also who are you when you can't see. But somehow I can't see it, but I know it'll be okay.
And you know that connection's there. Yeah. And sometimes you don't necessarily know to what. You don't even know what it's about. It's just there. The thing is, most of us have never experienced that connection, not fully, because faith was always associated with one of the pillars, right? Well, we talk about it being one of the pillars of trust. And we defined it as knowing that some unseen force has our back. And it was the one thing that we experienced in 3D as something outside of ourselves.
Well, because everything we experienced in 3D was outside of us.
Exactly. So faith was always faith in others, or it was held by someone else. And we had to have faith in that individual in order to experience the larger faith, right? Or it's, like you said, faith in the universe, or faith in the stars, faith in nature. Effectively, though, what we discovered, that unseen force is us.
Yes.
That part of us that we never got to connect to before because we were looking outside for it.
Yeah. Okay, I remembered what I was saying, and it's to the same point too. Because actually, when I say that I have faith that this person's in my life, or this happened, or that happened, or whatever, and I know it, like all the things I said, it's not I have faith in them. I have faith in the fact that I made this choice, so there's a reason. Yeah. It's the faith in me. Yeah. Right? It's maybe the faith in my higher self, maybe the faith in, you know, in my fate. I don't know, but I do have faith in me. So when I feel something, I trust it. I listen to it. I have faith that there's a reason I'm feeling it. Yeah. And the thing is, I think one of the big things that this stage of my evolution has been really teaching me is that I've really associated trust, faith, hope, and knowing with my demise in separation. That was what it was, right? Yes. It was a vehicle for which I could hurt myself, torture myself even. Yeah. You know, I wanted to trust, but I was also so scared, you know, convinced I was going to be betrayed. So I was constantly battling that. I wanted to have faith in something bigger, but I believed that my belief in something bigger was the reason why I was so fucking miserable all the time. I wanted to believe my knowing, but I had no confidence in myself to even listen to it for a second. And actually, that's why a lot of people go to psychics and different people, is that they just want to be told what they already know so they can have it confirmed. That was definitely my experience.
They want to be given permission.
Yeah, exactly. Given permission to believe in themselves. And I feel like one of the big things that, you know, when you were saying about like flip it, try something different, for me, in this arena, it's very much the idea of, can I have faith in myself and see what happens? Because in doing that over and over again, I can heal a really big fucking issue that I've held on to since I was a child. Can I really have faith in myself? And it is a given. It is. But it's something that I'm still learning to allow.
Right. Because until that relationship is cultivated within us, there's always going to be a part of us that remains powerless.
Yeah.
Right?
Always.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, I have faith in them. Therefore, unless they do it, I'm not.
You'll never understand that you are the source of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the humility piece comes in. And that's what I'm really learning as well, is that actually I have a feeling, I know something, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know why yet. And if I keep attributing reasons or stories or causality to those hows, knows, whys, whatever, then actually what I'm going to end up doing is not only am I setting myself up for failure, because I mean, often things don't turn out exactly as we want them to, nor would we want to. Otherwise, life would be pretty fucking boring, just as a side note. And you probably have more of an anxiety attack about that than anything else. Hashtag been there. But also because it's so much bigger than my mind can understand at that moment. If you imagine that every single week, especially at this time in our lives, and when evolution is just like, it feels like it's on like fast forward.
Hyperspeed.
Yeah. Who I am today and who I am in a week will be entirely different. Therefore, how I think something's going to play out today to how it like naturally would play out in a week will be entirely different. So not only am I putting myself in a box where I can't really, I feel this is important, so I'm just keeping going. Not only am I putting myself in a box where actually I'm keeping myself limited to who I was then in order for it to play out the way I imagined it to. And therefore I'm getting upset when it doesn't, even though actually that's probably not the best way that's suited for me. I'm also not acknowledging how much I'm changing and growing in such a short space of time. I can't see how something's going to play out yet because I can't see who I'll be then.
Yeah.
Even if it's the day after. My life can change in a night. My perspective can change in a moment. So why would I diminish who I'm going to be tomorrow by expecting my events of yesterday to unfold how they thought it was going to unfold? Does that make sense?
It does.
And I think that's really important, because I'm not saying don't have expectations, don't have knowing, don't know that someone's important to you, don't know that you're important to yourself. I'm saying give yourself the space to grow into whoever you're meant to be in that moment and allow it to unfold as that. And you can't know who that's going to be yet.
No. Well, I think deep down we do know.
We are the divine.
We're all moving in that direction, right? It's not like you wake up in the next day and you're like, the divine.
Yeah, honestly.
Faith is ultimately what opens. Useful? It was very useful. A lot more elevated than I think. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, yeah, but that's so elevated. You complain that like I say shit that people won't understand. But faith is ultimately the final and critical piece that keeps us at the door of 5D.
Okay.
Right? If we do not grasp faith, if we cannot have it within ourselves, we remain at that door. I'm not saying we can't get there. I'm just saying it's something that we're going to have to be able to work through, because I don't want to sound hopeless, because it's not hopeless at all. But it is the critical piece.
Because piece. it's not hopeless at all, in the sense that what we're basically saying is, can you understand that you facilitated your own healing? So can you have enough faith in yourself that if you did that, which is insanity to someone who was in their pain, to come out of their pain and be like, I did that. Can you understand how powerful you are? And can you have faith in yourself enough to know that you can then navigate the rest?
Exactly.
That's basically it.
Yeah, and that's one of the 3 things that is required to really grasp onto that faith that we need for 5D. The first one is, like you said, it's the belief that we have the capacity to meet our own needs and desires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not with magic or anything like that.
No. And it's very simple. Simple.
And it's not even like, oh, so I must, because this is my pet peeve of life, and I'm sure I will have and will continue to speak about this for many times over. The whole like, I really want to be loved, therefore I love myself. That's not what that's like. It's not that. It's, I am powerful enough to create whatever the fuck I need.
Yeah. I
want to make a painting, but I need to know where to buy the paints and where to buy the canvas. And you can do that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about other people. Is that you can, because if we're focusing on a feeling rather than an expression of the feeling, you can meet any need or desire you have.
Yes.
Whether it's contentment or joy or happiness or
even pleasure. It could be anything. Because that's why it's needs and desires. Not once. We're very specific about that. What do you need and what do you desire? One is very present focused and one is near future focused.
So which one's which?
Need is present.
Okay.
Right? Desire is sort of near future focused.
Is that? I never knew that.
Yeah.
So what's wants?
What do you mean?
What's wants?
Wants does not fall into this.
Okay.
That's why it's not in there.
And so what's bigger than needs and desires? What's more long-term focused?
That's enough. Effectively desires.
Okay, fine.
Plus what?
Bigger ones.
Exactly.
Larger desires.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Which are much more purpose and mission focused, which is why we're not going to break it down more.
Fine. So number one, we need the belief.
I'm choking on purpose right now.
I know. So number one is effectively the belief that we have the capacity to meet our own needs and desires. We can.
I got this. Simple.
I got this.
I got my life.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
You can even add the caveat, mostly.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We are always a work in progress. The second one is practice in exercising our divinity, which is something that you do and you know how to do because you love trying. And effectively, when we're practicing exercising our divinity, it's can we create something we love?
Okay, go on.
So it's giving yourself permission to do something that you wouldn't always do because that's the thing we often fear. Right? So that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make
because
sense.
it does kind of, require a little bit of the leap of faith.
I'm definitely a trier.
We are.
I'm going to send this message out into the ether and see what flies back. And fingers crossed, it's what I want.
Yeah. Or I'm going to try to write this book. Maybe I'll write another book. Maybe I'll write a novella. Maybe I'll just do shit. Maybe I'll start a blog. I don't know. But it's something that I believe in, or something I truly deep down want to do, or I deep down have this desire to see where this will take me.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to say it.
Okay. And what's number 3?
Understanding that there's so much more to our lives than the realities that we see.
Which is basically the whole speech I just gave you.
It is. It is. When you were going on, I was like, she's already pretty much saying the 3. But I was like, I guess I just kind of have to say it.
Yeah. Okay, so I just gave the practical answer before you gave the spiritual one this time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, so I know this.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, of course you know this. I mean, I feel like this is somewhat review.
Okay.
But we've also been building to this because the past few episodes have been building to this concept of faith.
Interesting.
This larger concept of faith.
It's true, actually. Like, there are times I'll be like, I'm just going to fuck this up, or I'm definitely going to fuck up, or I'm going to just try this.
The fuck up?
No, that's better. I'm definitely going to try this. It could blow up in my face. It could not, but I kind of need to see what happens here.
Yeah.
And that also underpins because as we were talking about, I have this and always have had, much to my family's chagrin, I guess is the word. I need to push my boundaries and I need to know how free I really am. Mm-hmm. So it's always kind of propelled me.
And there's value, as we said before, there's value to pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, there's value to being like, you know what, I'm somehow different, but I'm just going to embrace it and be the outlier.
So it doesn't really take much to enter 5D as much as we think it does. It really is faith. And that's why some people will get through their karma faster than others. That's why some people will be able to burn out their fear before others do. It is the faith that underpins it all.
Is that why I was so fast?
No, because remember, there were moments you really struggled. And sometimes we do conflate trust with faith, trust with knowing. That's why we call them the 4 pillars of trust, because trust is really the big umbrella, but these are all just aspects. Okay. But faith is the critical piece we need. The problem is that, and why it's a whole episode to itself, is because we're still experiencing, or we're still seeing faith being pushed outside. It's faith in my astrologer who is telling me that my planets say this about me. It's faith in this, my kinesiologist or my acupuncturist who's, muscle testing and telling me that I'm still carrying this piece from my mother.
It's
right?
faith in my partner who's going to show up for me in the exact ways I need him to.
Exactly.
So I know that I have the right man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just faith outside of ourselves no matter what. Faith in the preacher, in the church, in the temple, whatever it is. It's still outside of ourselves too much that we're really going to struggle with coming into 5D in this, as we said in the previous episode, and sort of what's becoming effectively a godless world. Until we can really see that all of that needs to be inside of us, right? Effectively, we are wired for blind faith, right? But when we're wired for blind faith, we're blind to everything, and that's what's hurt us. So true faith can see all.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because we're conscious, we see everything. including the divine within.
So what do you mean? So blind faith is just I have faith in someone outside of myself and I'm blind to it apart from that.
Yeah, because I'm not recognizing that faith.
I'm dependent. Yeah. My faith is dependent on them. So actually, which is what always happens, not in a fear-based way, but just because when your faith is outside of yourself, and as I said, as you keep growing and you keep changing, that, you know, everything shifts all the time. So people, if you have a preconceived idea of how they're going to fulfill that faith for you, they will always let you down.
Yeah.
So that blind faith ends up disappointing us, and then we start having a really fucking toxic relationship to it.
Mm-hmm. Always.
But if you're able to have faith in yourself, and literally, I believe she won't take me somewhere I'm not supposed to be. Like, that is for me my magic fucking words. Every time I hear it, my body relaxes, my cells relax, I relax, and I just remember, yes, that is true for me. But that she is not someone outside of me. No. It's me.
It's the one who has your back.
Me.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.